The doctor is in on KPEL. Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin.
Welcome everyone to the first edition of Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin. I'm here with my co-host, Brandon Como. He'll be joining me every week on the show. Brandon, when I told him I was getting my own show, I said, see if Brandon will come in and keep me straight every week, and I might need that. And so they said yes, so they must have thought the same thing. So I definitely appreciate you being here with me every week, and I'm very excited to have this opportunity to speak to all of you every Saturday morning. For the last 6 years, I've been doing a show on one of our sister stations called Wellness Wednesdays with CJ and Debbie Ray, and we've since retired that show, and I'm going to be bringing the latest in health and wellness to our KPEL audience, and so I'm excited about it, Brandon.
I am too. I'm really excited to be learning from you. Me and my wife have these conversations. She's very health conscious about different things we can do to get well, and so I'm looking forward to learning this information, bringing it back to her so we can have discussions. I know she's listening right now as well. She's really excited about this show and that I get to be a part of it with you. So really fired up. I mean, I've gotten a chance to listen to you through Moon Show during the week as you've done segments there in the past, and you brought a lot of great stuff. So really just looking forward to learning.
Good. I did guest on Moon a few times, and when I was on Moon, I was talking about our corporate wellness program. And one of the things I do for companies in addition to every other thing I do is we go into companies and train their employees on ways they can stay healthy and have healthier, more productive, safer employees. And we do company-wide ergonomic evaluations, and that's part of our corporate wellness program. But I'm excited to have some fresh ears here on our KPEL audience to talk to every week. And on this show, we're going to be discussing all matters of health and wellness and sickness and disease. And we're going to be covering many different ways you can get well using non-drug, non-surgical solutions. And we're going to dive into some of the latest research and the treatment methods out there. And, the field of wellness and functional medicine is growing at an amazing rate. We're starting to figure this thing out. I mean, there are some amazing discoveries, just like, traditional medicine is making strides. So are we in the wellness field as well. So,
one topic that we've discussed here on KPEL throughout the various shows is the concern that this has become an over-medicated society. And I think that's one thing that you really want to address.
Oh, I do. It's gotten absolutely crazy. And to tell you, everybody, a little bit about my story before we go on is I'm the Senior Vice President for the Bryant Wellness Institutes. It is, we have several offices around Louisiana. We've been in business now for 40-plus years, and I'm a wellness practitioner, a nationally certified weight loss coach, a chiropractic physician, a functional medicine specialist, and a certified dry needling practitioner. We're going to dive into all of that on this show, like what each one of those are. But I wear a lot of hats around the office, kind of like you, Brandon. I know you do a lot of different things around here as well. I see you everywhere around the office here. So. I've been fortunate enough. I've been in practice now for 20 years, but I've been fortunate enough to be rated in the top 10% of wellness practitioners in the country, and that was quite an honor by DSC Enterprises. And in addition to hosting this show every week, I have an online show that I also wanted to invite our listeners to, and that's going to be Thursdays at noon. And we do that on our Facebook page, and our Facebook page is Bryant Wellness Institutes. And the neat thing about that show, it's called Dr. Kevin Live and Online. And you can join our Facebook page, the Bryant Wellness Institutes, and you can join in. And the cool thing about that is you can ask me questions in real time, and I'm sitting right there at my desk. I do it on my cell phone, and we get online and we go live on Facebook, and you can discuss topics with me. You can enter questions, and they pop right up on the screen. And we're going to start that next Thursday at noon. So that's also going to be a fun little thing that we've just started. And, the reason that I do all of this, in addition to running a very busy practice, is because I am a man that's driven by an unshakable purpose to help as many people as possible live a better life using totally natural, non-drug solutions. And I've been on a 20-year quest to solve these complicated health challenges using totally natural solutions. And there are solutions out there. And that's the big reason that I'm doing this show, is to show people that you don't have to rely on patching your problems up. These things can be treated. It is possible to get yourself well without relying on just traditional medicine to get yourself better. And so we've been tremendously successful at the Bryant Wellness Institutes at solving patients' problems for good. And, like I said, we're really starting to figure this thing out. we're starting to learn that you can affect the cells at their most basic level and change their function using totally natural means. And we're making strides with these new treatments and research in the field of wellness and functional medicine. Every single week, there's new things coming out. And, I'm I'm one of those guys that I read research topics for fun.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys. And so we're going to be bringing a lot of that to you guys here every week on the show. And, we pride ourselves on our reputation for solving these things for good, not managing the decline, not monitoring the disease, and not patching problems up, but actually solving patients' problems for good. I always talk about a lady named Harriet Thompson. I don't know if, Brandon, you've heard of Harriet Thompson or not.
Never heard of her, to be honest.
So Harriet Thompson just completed the San Diego Marathon in 7 hours and 7 minutes. Harriet Thompson is 92 years old.
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
Man.
Listen, I'm 45, and I don't want to drive 26 miles.
No, I understand.
Much less run 26 miles. Harriet Thompson's 92 years old, and she finished the San Diego Marathon in 7 hours and 7 minutes. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So how do we get there?
Yeah.
And, it's funny. I talk to patients all the time, and they'll go, I don't want to live to be 90. And I'm always confused by that. I think what they mean is I don't want to be broken down and live the last 10 years of my life dependent on somebody else.
Yeah.
If I could be running at 92 or I could be driving and functional at 92, I'll take that.
Yeah. It's fair to say she's conquering life right now. She's not just living out her last days. She's conquering them.
Absolutely. And, I always call this the tale of two paths. Like, we know one lady who's 65 years old. She's gardening, playing tennis, golfing with her friends. She's enjoying her life. We know the other lady that's 65. She's in a nursing home or in a wheelchair. They're the same age. So this whole I'm just old thing really doesn't have anything to do with it. Now, the way that they got there, one's in a nursing home, the other's jogging and gardening with her friends. The way that they got there, the fork in their health pathway actually happened way before, 20 years before. One of them did something that the other one didn't. And that's what this show is about. Like, how do we get you on the pathway? How do we get you to take that right fork in the road where you're going to be golfing or gardening or playing with the grandkids and doing whatever you want at 65 and not the one that's in the nursing home or broken down or busted up at that age, and we see this. I mean, Brandon, you see these guys around there, they're 50 years old. They've had surgeries. They're broken up. They can't hardly get out of their truck. And, the way they got that way is they didn't address problems much earlier in their life. And so part of what I do as a wellness practitioner is sort of shake people up a little bit and say, hey, this is your health we're talking about. You need to take care of these things. And
I'm curious real quickly, because sometimes you'll hear people say, well, hey, that person had good genetics and that's why they're able to live as long as they do. So what would you say kind of is maybe that balance between having good genetics and making sure you're taking care of yourself right?
Yeah, and so what we're finding is it's not quite as much genetically a cause as what we once thought it was. Back in kind of the early 2000s when they were doing the mapping, the genome and all that, everything was, it's all your genetics. But there's something called epigenetics that we're going to get into in the show. And what that means is your genes aren't exactly what they are. Your genes can turn themselves on and off. That's why you all of a sudden at 40 years old have something that's genetic, but you didn't have it ahead of time because that gene clicked itself on. That gene turned itself on. Okay. That's called epigenetics, and we're going to be getting into that quite a bit. But we can actually get your good genes to turn themselves on and your unhealthy genes to stay turned off. And that's a whole practice called epigenetics that we're going to get into. But yeah, I don't think it's quite as much genetically caused as what we once thought it was. And even if you do have the genetic propensity to get some disease, if you do things right, you can actually, in most cases, prevent yourself from getting it.
Well, that's definitely encouraging.
Yeah, you're not exactly born with a lot of these diseases. Now, you can have the propensity to, but most of this stuff is environmental. Most of it is what we do to ourselves. Yeah. And we're going to be diving into all that. And this is very important that we figure out natural solutions to try to get ourselves better, and we don't just rely on traditional medicine because it like you said at the beginning of the show, it's gotten so out of control. Listen. America now takes 50% of all the pharmaceutical drugs on planet Earth, and we are 4% of the world's population.
Wow.
So 4% of the population takes 50% of all the medication on the planet.
It kind of sounds like our wealth working against us a little bit there.
Yeah, exactly. It is. You know, we have more hospitals and doctors than almost any other country in the world, and we spend more on health care than most of the developed world combined, yet China and Cambodia have a longer life expectancy than we do. You know, most people think, well, we're Americans, we're going to live a long time. Cambodia lives longer than we do. And so if the answer to great health was doctors, hospitals, money, and drugs, we would all live to be like 125. You know, we don't. Listen, they have dirt floors in Cambodia in some places. You know, they live in villages sometimes that are miles away from any hospitals, and sometimes their water is not the cleanest. And guess what? You know, they outlive us. And so there has to be a better solution. If the answer to achieving great health was traditional American medicine, we would all live to be, 125 years old. And so what's the deal? How does Cambodia outlive us as Americans? And so that's what this show is going to be about. We're going to dive into this on this show week after week. And what we're going to do on this show is some shows we'll talk about the latest research. Some shows we'll be diving into specific conditions, like we might have a specific show on diabetes, and we'll dive all into natural solutions for diabetes. We might have a show on fibromyalgia, or we might have a show on arthritis. But in some shows, we'll be discussing some of the latest treatment options out there in functional medicine, which, by the way, functional medicine, for those of you that don't know what that is, functional medicine is literally the future of healthcare. Functional medicine is basically, how do we use natural means to get your cells to do what we want them to do? Because the thing is, your body is made up of tissues. Your tissues are made up of cells. And if we can get your cells to do what they need to do, then the tissues will do what they're supposed to do. Then you're going to have a healthy body. So we break most health problems down to what is the body doing at a cellular level, and how do we get the cells to do what we want them to do? And it boils down to, believe it or not, two really simple things usually. There's either something in the cell that doesn't belong there, that we need to get it out of there, or there's something that the cell needs that we got to get it in there. And so that's basically the way the functional medicine works. And we have all kinds of really amazing new technologies, pulsed electromagnetic fields and frequency-specific microcurrents. And, we're going to dive into all that on the show. But what we're going to do the rest of today is I'm going to show you and talk to you a little bit more about my individual philosophy on health and disease, kind of like I have up to this point. So go ahead and stay tuned after the break. When we get back from break, I'm going to give you a little bit more on our philosophy and how it differs from traditional medicine in America.
Contact Bryant Wellness Institute at 837-7174.
Welcome back to Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin. I'm here with Brandon Como, my guest host. We are discussing all matters of health and wellness, sickness and disease here on Get Well Acadiana. Right before the break, we were discussing how Cambodia outlives us in America, and that's not okay with us. And so let me discuss kind of how we got here, and how did we get in such a shape in the American healthcare system to where we have a country like Cambodia where they might have a village that's miles away from any hospital that outlives us. And we have the most expensive healthcare system in the world. So one of the reasons that we got that way is that, unfortunately, I hate to say that this way, but we have a bit of a priority problem as Americans. If you look at our daily priorities, say, if you were to write down your priorities on a sheet, of course the kids come first, right? And so, Brandon, I don't even know if you have any kids. Brandon, you have children?
Nope, newlyweds. We do not have kids yet. We plan to do that in a couple of years, but no, not yet.
And so I have one. He's now 6 years old, and it will change your life, I tell you. I had mine a little bit late, but whenever you have kids, that's your number one priority, of course. You ask any parent, and of course, the kids come first.
Yeah.
And driving them places, you have soccer in school and all that. So, and then right after that, it becomes the house payment, the car payment, groceries, bills, gas, the spouse. The spouse barely even makes the list on some days. And so where's our health on that list? It's last, right? The health is not even on there.
Yeah.
And so there's something that we get as Americans we call mommy and daddy syndrome. Mommy and daddy syndrome means I take care of everything else under the sun and I put my health last. But let me ask you, can you make your house payment if you get sick? Can you even go to soccer practice, or can you drive your kids around if you lose your health? Can you lift your kids? Can you play with the grandkids if you lose your health? So in other countries, health is a huge priority. You know, in China, they start their day with group exercise out on the lawns and things like that. And so as Americans, we're so driven and everything is so fast paced that our health gets way down on the priority list. And so one of the things that we do on this show is we try to get you to make your health a priority. The best thing that you could do for your family is to take care of yourself. And, you know, especially men, we're the worst. We think that if we can hobble from our recliner to our chair, if we can hobble from our chair to work, and then from our truck from work into our job, and then hobble back to our truck and back to our chair, then everything's fine. I don't need to go to the doctor.
Well, we got to be tough.
Yeah, exactly. And we were raised that way, you know, suck it up. You don't need to, you know, and that's not okay. One of the reasons why women outlive us by 7 years is because of that, you know. And,
they're a little bit smarter sometimes than us.
They take care of themselves, exactly. And so as men, we're the world's worst at ignoring our health problems. So part of what I do as a wellness practitioner, as a doctor, is I have to have people take their health out from behind their back and look at it. So part of what I do as a doctor when I sit down to consult a new patient is I have to get them to look at their health for what's really going on. It's not okay to have 4 or 5 or 6 symptoms. It's not okay to be on 3 or 4 or 5 different medications and say, I'm okay. And so that's not okay. So we take care of everything else under the sun and we put ourselves last. And that's not okay because, guys, listen, life is too short to be sick like that. You know, we're only given a certain number of days on this planet. And to spend some of those days not feeling your best, that's a real tragedy. You know, if even 20% of your days aren't feeling okay or aren't feeling your best, you're losing valuable life. And that is not okay. You know, I talk to patients all the time that they can't remember the last day they really felt great. And that is a terrible way to go through life, to just sort of be existing. And what happens is we do something called adaptation. So you'll talk to patients and they go, well, no, I don't golf anymore because I just can't anymore. Well, no, I don't run anymore. I don't jog anymore. I just can't do that anymore. Oh, no, I don't hunt or fish anymore. I just can't do that anymore. And I don't go dancing with a spouse because I just can't do that anymore. Pretty soon, they'll have adapted themselves out of everything and they're just sort of existing. They're just taking up oxygen. They're not really, you know, they're not really doing anything for anybody.
So I'm just curious then, what are some of the most common ailments that you get when you see people that bring these problems to you that say, oh, I can't go dancing anymore. Oh, I can't go play golf anymore. What are some of those common ailments and what are they attributed to?
Well, a lot of times what happens is it starts out with something minor, like they might have a knee problem. You know, if your knee problem stops you from exercising, now that's a heart problem, that's a lung problem, that's a cardiovascular, you know, that affects everything else.
The snowball effect,
things snowball. And so the number one thing that I see is people ignore their problems to the point to where they become larger and larger problems. So by the time we get to them, it's a major, sometimes even too late of a problem. And so listen, I've consulted a lot of patients. In fact, I've consulted over 10,000 patients in the last 20 years. And if I could change one thing, it would be the way that they look at their health. So the truth is, when a patient comes into me, there's 2 problems we're dealing with. There's 2 issues. One of them is the issues of their health. So in other words, the physical problems that they have. The other problem that I have to deal with is the way they look at their health. So I have to address both of those to be good to them, because if I don't get them to see their health problem for what it is and I allow them to keep ignoring it, I've done them a real disservice. If I don't get them to see what's happening in their body and they go ignore their body and then they go end up, you know, having a heart attack or dying or getting a chronic disease that ends their life, that's partially on me.
Well, I like how you said that, taking their health from behind their back and putting it in front of their face. And unfortunately, that is what many of us do. We'll take our health for granted or just kind of push through and hope that, hey, you get to the other side. Once you get past this problem, it'll be okay. And then, like you said, it has that snowball effect and can go to other parts of your body as you get older.
Yes. One of the very best patients that I have come into me is the one that have fought off a major life-ending disease, like they've fought off cancer or they fought off something major life-ending because they don't take their health for granted anymore.
Right.
They come in banging on the table going, tell me what I got to do. What do I have to do to fix me? And so, if we could all experience that a little bit, like, this is our health, this is our life we're talking about, I think we would all make it a little bit of a higher priority. And so one of the biggest issues when I'm consulting new patients is that they think that their symptoms are normal, and that's just part of life. Symptoms are not normal. Symptoms are like your check engine light coming on in your car, telling you something's wrong. A symptom is a sign that your body sends you telling you something is wrong. It's not what's wrong, but it's telling you something is wrong. And so just imagine that you bought a brand new car. So let's say you saved up for 2 years and you bought your dream car. So you're driving home in your dream car and the check engine light comes on. Then the oil light comes on. So you're 2 blocks down the road. So you turn around and pull back into the dealership and you drag the salesman out there and he looks in there and he looks at your car. He drags the mechanic out there and they say, we figured out what's wrong with your car. Your check engine light's on. And they put tape over it and charge you $200. Would you ever be okay with that with your brand new car? You would never let that happen. You would never buy that whenever it come to a car. But why do we do that with our bodies? We get charged outlandish rates to cover up our signs that something's wrong, and we think that's okay. That's what healthcare means. And that is not what healthcare means. Or they think they're just old or that they just can't be helped. That is not the way health works. And so people are just sort of resigned to live with their health issues, and they've gotten used to managing their symptoms and sort of managing their decline. They've gotten used to having something wrong, and that has become normal. So managing your diseases and being able to just get by is not the same thing as health. And it's a sad state of affairs when our healthcare system has failed so miserably that people grade being healthy as that their multiple diseases are just barely being managed using medication. And so, Brandon, it's funny. I ask patients to rate their health on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being totally healthy. And they'll always say, oh, I'm about an 8. Yet that patient's on metformin for diabetes. They're 60 pounds overweight. They're on blood pressure and cholesterol medicine. They have pain throughout their body, and they're on a CPAP machine. And that's an 8 to them. That's like a 2 or a 3. And they'll go, well, I don't have cancer or anything. So that's what health has become, is that we don't have cancer. That is not what health means. And so health is the state of complete, free, and normal function of all of the tissues in our body to the point that we feel great, we have energy, we sleep all night, we wake up full of energy, and our bodies are functioning at their full capacity. So health is not just the absence of symptoms. So whenever we get back from break, I'm going to discuss what the difference is in symptoms and actual health. We're going to dive into this a little bit more, so don't miss this next segment. Stay tuned.
Like Dr. Kevin on Facebook by searching Bryant Wellness Institute. Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
So welcome back to Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin. I'm here with Brandon Como, my co-host, and we're discussing different aspects of health and disease. And before the break, we were discussing symptoms as being an unreliable indicator of how healthy you are. Think about this. Have you ever heard somebody say, Brandon, he wasn't sick a day in his life and he dropped dead of a heart attack?
Yeah, I've heard that.
In fact, 40% of the time, that's what happens. The person thinks they're healthy and just dies of a heart attack one day because they were using their symptoms as their barometer of health. So this guy might have kissed his wife goodbye and died on the way to work, thought he was healthy. Yeah. And so having no symptoms and being healthy is not the same thing at all. To flip that around, you might have a person who is the sickest you could imagine. I mean, fever, cold sweats, vomiting, and diarrhea. Like this guy can't even leave the house. He has so many symptoms. Maybe he just ate a bad piece of fish. The body, in its infinite wisdom, is trying to get rid of that bad piece of fish out of his body as fast as possible. The fever of 102 is killing the bacteria. The body is expelling the bad fish out of both ends as fast as possible. But you know what? That's a perfectly healthy response the body has taken to something that, like a bad piece of fish. But what do? We take something to stop the vomiting, take something to stop the diarrhea, and something to bring the fever down. If we would just leave the body alone in its infinite wisdom, it's doing what it needs to do. But we're ingrained with this idea that it's good to feel good and it's bad to feel bad. And if I feel bad, I need to take something to feel good. We grow up with that idea from the time we're little bitty babies. We're ingrained with this idea that I need to take something to feel better. And if I feel bad and I take something and I feel better, then everything is okay. Well, what happens when that baby grows up and they're ingrained with this idea of, if I feel bad, I need to take something to feel good? And now they have their first heartbreak, or maybe their parents get divorced, or maybe they have some hurt in some other kind of way. You know, one of the reasons we have so many problems with street drugs in America is because we're ingrained to take something to feel better, and then we're okay. You know, no wonder we have so many problems with drugs in America, is because we're ingrained with that if I feel bad, I need to take something to feel better, when in fact, the way the body works is many times the body knows what to do if we would just leave it alone. And so another big problem that I see is people will ignore their symptoms to the point to where by the time they get them checked, many times it's too late. And so what happens, Brandon, is people don't get checked when they start to have symptoms. They don't even get checked when those symptoms get really bad. Yeah. They wait till their symptoms keep them from doing something they really like to do.
Right.
Like, oh, I can't golf anymore, so I had to come in to see you. Or, oh, I can't sit in the deer stand anymore. I have to finally come in and get this looked at. And so being a deer hunting fanatic myself, I understand that, but you got to get things looked at before that. And so I've consulted so many patients and for so long, and these are the main things that I see. So we're going to be diving into this here on Get Well Acadiana on these shows in the future. And so you ask patients, why didn't you get checked earlier? Well, it wasn't bothering me, but just a few days a week. I feel like saying, well, if your refrigerator quit working a few days a week, would that be okay with you? Well, of course that wouldn't be okay. Or I got it. Let's say the brakes on your car worked really good for 29 days out of the month. But that one day, those brakes aren't going to work. Would that be okay with you with your car?
Oh,
of course not. Yeah. And so patients get this idea, well, it's only a few times a week, so it's not a problem. That is a problem. If your body is having something even just a few days a week, that is not okay. People treat their cars better than their bodies. And so my purpose is to change the way people look at their health. And so how are we going to do that? Well, we use the very latest technology. We have the latest advancements in natural health care, the latest in functional medicine, and the very best in natural ways to be healthy and functional for as long as possible. And that's what this show is going to be all about. So we're going to be diving into the detailed subjects on natural solutions to diabetes and arthritis and hormonal imbalances and weight loss and much, much more here on the show. And so we're going to be dividing our shows into conditions and interesting subjects. And today I wanted to give you my main philosophies on health and disease. And, you know, health is not merely just the absence of symptoms. Health is the 100% functioning of each cell and tissue in your body to the point to where your body functions as if it were intended. The cells are replicating as if they were intended, and the body stays in this state of health and homeostasis, meaning the tissues are working and replicating the way that they were designed. So right after this next segment, we're going to close up the show this week, and don't forget to set your Facebook to and join us on Facebook at the Bryant Wellness Institutes. I'm going to be hosting a show every Thursday at lunch. You can tune in and listen. The really neat thing about that show is that you can enter questions. It shows up right up on my screen, and it's more of a conversation. And so you can put your questions in. You can put subjects that you want to talk about. And that show on Facebook, it's called Live and Online with Dr. Kevin. It's going to be every Thursday at noon. So pick up your phone right now and like our Facebook page at the Bryant Wellness Institutes, and we'll be having that show every Thursday at noon. And so stay tuned for this next segment. We're going to be closing up the show on Get Well Acadiana.
Answering your questions every Saturday morning. Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin.
All right, welcome back to Get Well Acadiana. I am Dr. Kevin. I'm here with my co-host, Brandon Como, and I hope that you really will have enjoyed our first show here on Saturday morning on Get Well Acadiana. We've been discussing in this first show my philosophy on health and disease. So I hope that you'll have learned so far that health is not just the absence of symptoms. Health is much, much more than that, and that symptoms aren't always an indicator of what is wrong. Symptoms are very unreliable when it comes to your state of health. Just because you have no symptoms does not mean that you're healthy. And just because you're covering your symptoms up with medication and you're managing your disease does not mean that you're healthy either. And so, like I was saying, we'll have people that take 3 or 4 different medications, but because their numbers are okay on their lab work, they consider themselves healthy. Then that person will go ahead and develop worse chronic diseases because they never really did what it takes to get themselves healthy. They were managing the decline. So the difference between what I do in functional medicine and traditional medicine is we don't manage the decline. We want to try to get your cells working at their peak efficiency, get your body actually to its highest state of health. And we have a really special way that we can do that. We're going to get into this on our next show. We call it our pyramid of health. So our pyramid of health is something that I created about 4 years ago. And this is what we put our patients through. And it kind of works like the old food pyramid, Brandon. You remember the old food pyramid?
Oh, yeah.
Although that was totally wrong, which we'll get into. But we start at the bottom and we work our way up. And the first thing that we look at whenever a patient comes in is we look at the nervous system. The reason we start there is because the nerves control all other systems. Your nerves are like the master system of your body that control everything else. Now, if you imagine like the wiring of your house, if you wake up one morning and you open your refrigerator and it's not working, the first thing you're going to do is check the breaker. You got to make sure there's electricity going to your appliances.
Right.
That's the same thing we do. When a patient comes in, the first thing we do is we make sure that the nervous system is communicating effectively. The second rung on the pyramid of health is we want to make sure the hormones are functioning correctly, because the next thing that controls your body is your hormonal system. So your nerves control your body, then your hormones control your body. So the second stage or the second phase of our program deals with making sure the hormones are balanced. Then the third phase of our pyramid of health deals with getting anything that's supposed to be in the body out, cleansing, detoxification, making sure that if you have any heavy metals, you have any chemical toxins in your body that doesn't belong there, that can dramatically affect your health, and believe me, they do, making sure we get anything that's in there out. And then the top of the pyramid is nutritional supplementation. So now we want to make sure if the cells are short of something, what do the cells need? Are they short of a mineral or a vitamin or a supplement? And so it's the nervous system first, the hormonal balancing second, then the cleansing third to make sure that we get anything in the body out. And then the last rung is the cells short of anything that they need.
So I'm curious, how often would you recommend going through a cleanse for your body?
Everybody's different. And listen, the thing with cleanses is there's some, and we're going to get into this in future shows, but just real quickly, the thing with cleansing is there's 90% of them out there are completely worthless. You got to really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's only about 10% of them that really do what they say that they're going to do. So you can't go to one of these big box stores and buy a bottle of cleanse off the shelf and think that you're doing any good. You have to really know what you're doing in order to get chemicals and heavy metals and all that out of your body. And so we have a whole protocol for getting things out of your body, but we have to know sort of what's in there first. So we have some testing and analysis that we do to determine what it is, like is it lead or mercury or cadmium or arsenic, and then we have a protocol that we go through. But it really depends on how toxic the person is and also how cleanly you eat. Yeah. And so like for me, I might cleanse every couple of years because I try to stay pretty clean. For the average person that, eats fast food and junk all the time, they might need to do once a year. It really just depends on what we find whenever we look at their body and see what's going on with them. Now, the next thing that I wanted to go over, and by the way, don't forget, if you have any questions that you want to ask me, you can join us on our Facebook show. You can join our Facebook page at the Bryant Wellness Institutes, and we have a show Thursdays at lunch. So on your lunch, while you're eating your lunch Thursdays, you can pull up our Facebook, and I'm going to be on there live. I'll be sitting at my desk, and you can put your questions in. It's going to pop right up on my screen. And it's more of a conversation. So you can ask me questions. We can have different discussions on different health concerns that you may have. So, you can join us for that. You can like us on our Facebook page, the Bryant Wellness Institutes. It's Bryant, Bryant, Wellness Institutes with an S. And you can like our page and join us for that Thursday show at noon. So, thank you guys so much for listening today. And I have patients ask me all the time, maybe they're thinking about coming in and trying, some of this wellness type based care. Maybe they're trying functional medicine, but they're just not sure because it's something that they've never been exposed to before. If that's you, I wanted to let you know a little bit about the way our offices work at the Bryant Wellness Institutes. So the very first thing that we want to know is what the underlying problem is. We're not so much interested in what you've been diagnosed as, except we want to know what the cells are doing. So I'm not one that likes to put labels on diseases because a lot of times things are misdiagnosed. The body is super complex. And so what I like to ask myself is the big question of why. My thyroid quit working. Why? My colon is acting up. Why? I have colitis. Why? I have, sinusitis. Why? And so what we do at my office is I like to continue to ask the question, why, until we boil it down to the cellular level. Why are the cells doing what they're doing, and how can we get the cells to behave differently? And so we always start in my office with a very thorough consultation in history first. And so my consultation history is not just about what are you suffering with and what's your insurance. My consultation history is about, tell me what happened during your childhood. Did you ever have any injuries? Did you, what kind of environment were you exposed to? We really dive into deep consultation history so we can put together exactly the history of your life as to what happened and how your body ended up in the shape that it's in. And that's very important because if I get a really clear picture of everything that your body has been through from the time you were born, from the time you came out of the birth canal till you're sitting in front of me today, if I can get a clear picture of what your body went through from start to the shape that it's in today, I can start to put a picture together of exactly what your body is doing and what the cells are actually doing and why they're doing what they're doing. And so we don't like labels at Bryant Wellness Institute. We don't like to call diseases different conditions. What we want to do is we want to find out why your body is doing what it's doing. And then the question becomes, how can we positively affect the body? How can we get the cells to change their behavior? And that's what this new functional medicine program is all about. And, we're now one of the most successful functional medicine clinics in the Acadiana area. We have some new technology that we have at our offices that we're the first ones to bring this new technology to Louisiana. And I don't have time to get into it to today's show, but in our future shows, we're going to be diving into this new technology that we have, how it works, why it affects the cells in such an amazing way. And we're able to solve problems that, people really thought they just had to live with. And so we have some really amazing things coming up in the field of functional medicine. And it all revolves around just figuring out why the body is doing what it's doing. And so on our first visit, when you come in to see us, we always start with a real thorough consultation first. And, Brandon, one of the really cool things we do at Bryant Wellness is if after that consultation, if I don't feel like I can help you, then we shake hands and part as friends.
Right.
So I don't accept patients that I don't truly feel like I can help. And that does happen from time to time. But if I feel like I can help you, then we sit down and we figure out what we need to do and we devise a plan. We develop a comprehensive strategy to get your body functioning and working the way that it was supposed to work again. And so I want to invite anybody out there who is kind of on the fence. They're just not really sure if if they can be helped, or maybe you've resigned yourself to living with these conditions. Maybe you've thought, well, no, I just sort of have to live with it. And, Brandon, that's something else that I notice people do all the time. People are really funny. They think that most people feel that their condition is that one condition that can't be helped. Right. Oh, no, doc, you can't help me. My problem runs in the family. Or, oh, no, doc, you can't help me. I have this one special thing. No, you can be helped too. People feel like they're the one person who their condition is the one that can't be helped because maybe they've tried lots of things and hadn't had solutions yet.
So I'm curious, what are some of the testing methods that you use?
Well, we have some of the most specialized testing methods in this new field of functional medicine of any clinic in Louisiana. Our blood work, if we just take our blood work that we do, most blood work, they do a simple, CBC, and there are a couple of pages. Okay. Our blood panel is like 15 pages of stuff. We check all the enzymes, all the mineral contents, all the building blocks that your body needs to make what it needs in order to be healthy. And then we have something really cool that we call functional x-rays or functional motion study x-rays, where, whenever they do x-rays at the hospital, they tell you to lay down and not move. Or if they do an MRI, they tell you to lay down and not move. Well, listen, your body's designed to be gravity bearing and moving around. Yeah. So I don't want to look at your test with you laying down and being still, because most people that have some sort of body complaint, when they lay down and be still, it goes away. Mm-hmm. So we take our x-rays standing up, bending, flexing, and moving, and then we can actually determine how the body's working and bending when you're actually feeling your symptoms. So a lot of this is just real common sense. A lot of it is just figuring out what the body's doing in a real common sense way, because I'll tell you something. Your body is going to make sense. The body is designed in a real common sense way. Mm-hmm. If your doctor tells you something and you kind of scratch your head and goes, that doesn't seem to make common sense to me, it's probably not what's happening. Your body is designed and set up to make real logical sense. So all of our testing methods are the same way. Really logical, common sense, meat and potatoes kind of testing. And so if you would be interested in that, you're more than welcome to give us a call. We have 3 locations, 2 in the Acadiana area. I practice at the Lafayette Broussard office. The number for that is the number for the Broussard office is 837-7174. And we have an office in the New Iberia area as well. The number for that is 367-2567. If you're interested and you want to get looked at to see if you're tired of suffering, if you're tired of taking medicine, if you want to see if maybe some of these natural solutions would help you, you're more than welcome to give us a call and set up that consultation. And, Brandon, the other thing is we do that consultation completely no charge.
Oh, wow.
And so we don't want to charge you until we find out we can help you.
Yeah.
If we can't help you, I don't think it's right to come in and charge you a bunch of money for me to say, I can't help you. I'm going to send you to my buddy down the street.
Right.
That's what happens a lot of times. And then he's going to charge you and tell you he can't help you. Yeah. So we don't treat people like that. If we don't feel like we can help you, we'll shake hands and we'll part as friends. But if we feel like we can, then we can sit down, like I said, and devise a comprehensive strategy to devising what we need to do in order to get you better. And so you can email me at drkevin@bryantwellnessinstitute.com. You can call my office at 837-7174. You can call the New Iberia office at 367-2567, or you can join us on Facebook at the Bryant Wellness Institute. So, look, you got lots of options. And so, listen, I thank you all very much for joining us on our first edition of Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin and Brandon Como. Thank you all. Listen, set your phone for 10 o'clock next Saturday morning. I want you to tune in. Now that we've got the philosophy out of the way, now on our future shows, we're going to really dive into some of these complicated conditions, these thyroid conditions and hormonal conditions and arthritis and some of these really complicated body conditions. But now that you know my philosophy, you know what you can expect on Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin and Brandon Como. So tune in next week. Thank you all for listening.
More information from Dr. Kevin at BryantWellnessInstitutes.com.